There has been a sudden spate of lone wolf terror attacks in Israel. The attacks seem mysterious with scant information about their origins and the past behind them. So, what do these lone wolf terror attacks really suggest? Let's find out. Hi, and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of TFI Media Group. I'm your host, Kanika. Let's begin. The Jewish nation of Israel is under an attack of sorts, and Israel is not able to respond despite its history of disproportionate retaliation. The lone wolf terror attacks, which show that the Jewish nation is facing a new kind of terror threat. Between March 22 and April 7, there have been 4 lone wolf terror attacks in Israel that ended up taking 13 innocent lives. But delving deep into the matter, one is certain to find that no lone wolf terror attack happens in Israel. In 3 out of 4 attacks, the assailants used guns and rifles, showing that the attacks were conducted by trained terror operatives and not by local radicals. There is clear involvement of anti-Israel militias and non-state actors in the region. However, if we decode Israel's security situation, we should understand one thing: there are no lone wolf terror attacks in Israel. Why? Well, Israel doesn't have any enemies in the region today.
There was a time when almost the entire Middle East was Israel's enemy. But straight to now, Arab countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain, and the UAE are effectively Israel's friends too.
If Israel has any enemy left, it is Iran. And Iran has a policy of not attacking Israel directly and working through militias instead. Iran therefore uses Lebanon-based Hezbollah and Gaza-based Hamas to attack the Jewish nation. Therefore, it is not as if some self-radicalized Arab man would wake up one day and decide that he will take out a knife to stab anyone he encounters on Tel Aviv's streets. Every attack in Israel is well planned and orchestrated invariably either by Hezbollah or Hamas. However, Hezbollah and Hamas find it convenient to work in the shadow of lone wolf terror attacks. The very purpose of lone wolf terror attacks is to evade scrutiny by intelligence agencies and security forces. If a terror group attacks Israel directly, Israel will retaliate disproportionately and obliterate all launch pads of its enemy. Israel has a reputation of taking down 300 terrorists if 30 of its citizens are killed. This is what happened during the 11-day Gaza war last year. However, when a lone wolf terror attack is conducted, the forces that planned and carried out the attacks remain invisible. It is not so simple for the government agencies and security forces to retaliate, and the government is not forced to act either. So, the terror outfits can avoid serious repercussions.
And this brings us to the last important issue: coalition politics.
Imagine former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in power today. What would he have done? Well, he would have traced the forces behind the recent terror attacks, and either Hamas or Hezbollah would have been found guilty.
Netanyahu would then have retaliated with the use of heavy and overwhelming military firepower.
This is because Netanyahu was a powerful prime minister who wanted to act.
Incumbent PM Naftali Bennett too is a right-wing leader who espouses nationalist values.
However, Bennett is the leader of a coalition government that has to make amendments with the left and the Arab Muslim Ram Party. Bennett, therefore, has his own limitations. During the 11th-day Gaza war, Bennett had a strong reason to retaliate because Israeli citizens would have started asking why he was not taking any action against Hamas despite all the rockets that were being fired into the Israeli territory. However, he is not in a position to trace and target terror Hamas launch pads in Gaza or Hezbollah launch pads in Lebanon.
Ultimately, all these factors have led to a spate of terror attacks in Israel going unanswered.